It's a pleasure to see so many people come out for culture. So it's alive and well in Washington, D.C. I'm very happy to see that. A warm welcome to all of you, and I'd like to thank the Middle East Institute for co-sponsoring this excellent program with us, The Art of the Emirates. Both Kate Seelye and Lynn Sneege have been great colleagues and partners to make this event happen. It's a very special afternoon for me, and I think also for my husband, Derek. We spent many years in Abu Dhabi, in the United Arab Emirates, and Her Excellency Hoda Al Khamis Kanoo and Mohamed Kanoo were very dear and close friends of ours, and we witnessed firsthand the role that the Abu Dhabi Music and Arts Foundation played in the UAE, building bridges between the East and West, and also introducing a lot of the young scholars in Abu Dhabi, both students from high schools and universities, who attended many, many of their events. And Derek and I attended many of their events. First row seats, thank God. It was very nice of you, Hoda. But they are here in the US, and we're truly honored to host them this afternoon. And I'm going to turn over everything to Kate Seelye, who will do the necessary. Kate?
Thank you. I'm Kate Seelye, Senior Vice President of the Middle East Institute, and I want to welcome you to today's very special event, as Marcelle said, and many, many thanks to the Arab Gulf State Institute for co-hosting with us. Thank you to you, Ambassador Wahba, to Marcelle, for facilitating this. This is the start of a partnership with an organization with which we share many values, including a love of the art and culture of the region. Today's event is an output of MEI's Arts and Culture program, which was established a little over a year ago, and it's now under the direction of Lynn Sneege, our Arts and Culture Director. Please wave your hand, Lynn. I hope everybody gets a chance to meet her today. And with this program, we really hope to promote a sector in the region, the arts writ large, which we believe has growing impact and influence in the region. We want to engage artists, writers, and filmmakers also in the conversation here in Washington, in the policy conversation. We feel that for US policy to be better informed, it has to understand the aspirations of the people of the region, which we feel the artists so beautifully reflect and express. We also believe that the artists of the region represent a humanizing and forward-looking view of the world, and we want to support them and their message by helping them connect with art institutions here in Washington, artists, and new audiences like yourself. And that's why it's so important to us today to have this conversation about the arts of the Emirates, which is such an incredibly dynamic art scene, and to have with us individuals like Her Excellency Hoda Al husband, who've been at the forefront of really building this very special scene. And I want to note that today's event segues very nicely into our banquet on Thursday, November 12th, where we are honoring Sheikha Hoda Al Khamis, who is the director of the Sharjah Art Foundation and runs the groundbreaking Sharjah Art Biennial, which has done so much to support the arts of the Gulf, and I hope everybody can join us. The inspiration for this conversation is a gorgeous book that the Abu Dhabi Music and Arts Fund, ADMAF, recently published, which highlights the artists of the Emirates, the art galleries, and the art schools. It's right here. We'll have copies out after the talk in the break room, so please take a look at it. It's a very special book. You'll be seeing slides from it tonight, and it's really a testimony to how much has been invested in educating and cultivating a society to engage with and care about the arts. So many thanks to our speakers for joining us today. It's really a pleasure to have them share their wealth of knowledge. We're going to begin today's presentation with Her Excellency Hoda Al Khamis Kanoo, who can best be described as a pioneer for arts education and community arts in the UAE for the past 2 decades. She's the founder of ADMAF, and in 2004 founded the Abu Dhabi Festival, where she's the artistic director. It is a world-class music and arts festival that seeks to broaden cultural understanding of the arts and heritage of the UAE. She's also a frequent public speaker on matters relating to the creative and cultural industries, and she's a tireless advocate of the vital role of women in the UAE, and is a recipient of numerous awards, including the prestigious French Chevalier de l'Ordre des Arts et des Lettres. It's a great honor to have you here, Your Excellency. May I please invite you to the podium to share with us your words.
Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you, Ambassador Wahbi, for the kind introduction and the warm welcome to the Arab Gulf State Institute. We're very proud and very happy. I would like also to express our appreciation to the Middle East Institute, and in particular, Lynn Snej, Middle East Director, Cultural Affairs and Program, and thank you, Kate. Why the art of the Emirates? I come from Abu Dhabi, the capital of the UAE, a nation that believes art is a force for innovation and progress. It's essential fuel for the continuing evolution of civilization. This is Abu Dhabi. This is where I come from. Art connects us to our deeper selves, both as individuals and as societies. Indeed, it connects societies by revealing the deep and shared roots of our humanity. Art is also a powerful yet peaceful statement, a statement of identity, a statement of values. Thank you. A statement not made against others, but to others and to ourselves. And today, in such challenging times, as the Arab world struggles with many forces, both internal and external, allowing art to assert, express, connect is not a luxury. It is an absolute necessity. Now, more than ever, we need to remind the world and remind ourselves this is who we truly are. Our roots in the arts are not new, for art has been embedded in us through our own historical traditions in the UAE. This reflects in the graceful flowing beauty of Arabic calligraphy, the mesmerizing geometry of Islamic art, the creative expression of Emirati embroidery, through to the immensely powerful visualization of the written word, and of course, the lyrical splendor of our oral poetry. For decades, we have enjoyed visiting our own museums across the 7 Emirates. You mentioned Sheikh Ahour from Sharjah, and there are over 30 museums in the Emirates of Sharjah alone today, and with more to come across the UAE. Private collectors have also contributed to the cultural wealth of the country by sharing their exquisite collections with everyone, citizens, residents, and visitors. Art is elegant. Art is beautiful. Art is hope. And today, on the serene Saadiyat Island in Abu Dhabi, there are 3 magnificent museums being built. The Frank Gehry Design Guggenheim, the Zayed National Museum conceived by Sir Norman Foster, and next year we will experience the opening of Jean Nouvel's Louvre Abu Dhabi. You know, I fondly remember my earlier visits to Washington, D.C., this great city, discovering the mall and experiencing its many exciting museums and rich cultural heritage. I cannot but help thinking how similar we are. DC proudly makes a statement for this country through these museums in giving its capital's visitors a glimpse into the history of this nation, but also into its interest for the world's arts. With our museums in the UAE, that I hope you all visit Abu Dhabi and share with us these new beautiful museums. So with our museums in the UAE, we want to tell the world who we are. And we want to extend an open heart and open hands to other cultures in allowing them to find a home in those exceptional museums in Abu Dhabi. We believe in the strength of soft power. Sheikh Zayed, the founder of our nation, has always said that a country is measured by the achievement of its people. Our book, The Art of Emirates, tells the dynamic, creative story of the guardians of creativity and knowledge, Emirati artists, galleries, foundations, universities, all working together today in the UAE. They're working and they explore the impact they make upon society in their own words. The book is mentioned in the own words of everyone who's trying to make a difference and move forward and progress. They have all been instrumental in building a confidence that reaches out and enables the young, our children, the young generation, to create, generate, innovate ideas of their own with passion and absolute determination. Ideas that will make a difference and drive progress, the progress that we all need. You know, I believe the supreme value of a nation lies in its culture. The arts of the Emirates reveals this truth. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for those very inspiring and beautiful words. Our second presenter today is Lisa Ball-Lechgar. She served as the advisor to Mrs. Al Khamis Kanoo since 2009. Ms. Ball-Lechgar's duties cover artistic programming, international affairs, publications and advocacy at the foundation. Prior to moving to the Gulf in 2004, she worked in theater, festivals, and the visual arts in Europe and in the Arab world. Lisa, I'd like to welcome you to the podium.
Good afternoon. The Art of the Emirates offers a glimpse into the UAE visual arts sector through the voices of some of the many citizens who have helped shape it. From artists to gallerists, foundation figures to educators, every layer of this sector is powering the creativity of the UAE nation. I'm delighted to say that the Art of the Emirates book has just been awarded the prize at the Sharjah International Book Fair. So we're very proud about that, and you're the first people to know. Of course, the Art of the Emirates is not ADMAF's first foray into the visual arts. Established in 1996, the Abu Dhabi Music and Arts Foundation has been supporting the artists of the UAE and wider world for almost 2 decades, publishing artist monographs, books and guides, delivering exhibitions in the UAE, UK and USA, supporting the professional development of artists through its grant scheme as well as its advisory service, the Nationals Gallery, holding workshops in schools and universities, and rewarding excellence through its portfolio of awards, including the Christo and Jean-Claude Award for Emerging Artists in partnership with the New York University Abu Dhabi Institute. Ever since the creation of the UAE in 1971, visual artists have been engaging in and reflecting upon society. Through their thoughts, their opinions, their observations, they have given us fresh ways to look at the world around us. Over 40 years later, national visual arts practice is gaining credence and recognition alongside the more visible movers and shakers of the international art market, the art fairs, the art galleries and the auction houses, who have all established themselves in the UAE over the last 10 years. Now is the time, ladies and gentlemen, that the national artists of the UAE are stepping into the spotlight. Now is the time that the creativity and innovation of this country is being captured and conveyed by its greatest ambassadors. So let us explore the diversity of the UAE's visual arts sector and its contribution to the country's vision. The art of the Emirates is incredible. In this presentation, we shall see how artists continue to play an important role in shaping the nation's contemporary cultural identity, utilising its natural resources, building upon its rich cultural heritage, and helping to define a distinctive voice in a 21st century globalised world. The artists are an infinite intellectual source, the only truly renewable energy, fueling the quest for knowledge generation after generation. Their contribution to the educational development of the UAE is of paramount importance, as too is the growth of the arts educational infrastructure. With a firm foundation offering the best in visual art teaching, the next generation can build upon the creative legacy, continuing those ongoing and necessary lines of inquiry. And as the UAE seeks to diversify its economy, the emerging creative and cultural industries offer great potential in terms of employment, entrepreneurship, export and tourism. Its contribution to the UAE's development of its people's knowledge capacity, as well as its international profile, to name but a few, is equally significant. The 2030 vision of Abu Dhabi is one built upon creative promise of its people. And as the UAE capital positions itself as a global capital of culture, it is its artists who sit at the very heart of this journey. So let us go back to the formative years of the UAE and examine the main protagonists in the visual arts sector. 9 years after Sheikh Zayed established the UAE, the Emirates Fine Arts Society opened its doors in Sharjah. It soon became home to a pioneering artists' circle and has since fostered the careers of countless artists and curators. Its annual general exhibition remains the country's longest-running arts event. Its programmes of workshops, seminars, publications, group and solo exhibitions over the last 35 years have helped not only to nurture talent, but also to raise the level of understanding and awareness for modern and contemporary art. Emirates Fine Arts Society is where it all began. Here you see Hassan Sharif, widely considered the father of UAE conceptual art. Following his studies at the Bayham School of Art in London, where he studied on a UAE scholarship, Hassan co-founded the Emirates Fine Arts Society. And between 1979 and 1985, he developed his constructive semi-system project, composed of documentation, drawings, and performance art, as you see at the top of the screen. This revolutionary approach to artistic expression at the time was greeted with equal suspicion and fascination. From his atelier at the Society, Hassan formed Al Khamsa, the Five, a collective with his brother, Hussein Sharif, Mohamed Ahmed Ibrahim, who you'll see later, Abdullah Al-Sadi, and the artist that was chosen to represent the UAE at the 2013 Venice Biennale, Mohamed Kazem. Today, Hassan Sharif's focus remains firmly on the process of creation, the making of art, through repetitive action of mass-produced items in response to the extreme consumerism and waste that is part of the way we live. Today, his works can be found in public and private collections across the world. Now, moving from conceptual to the figurative, Abdul Qadir Al Rais is the Artist Laureate of the UAE. Born in 1951, he was sent from Dubai to Kuwait as a boy following the death of his father. It was there in the libraries of Kuwait City that he began leafing through books featuring the masters of the Renaissance, the Impressionism period, and other movements. On his return to the UAE, Abdul Qadir pursued studies in Sharia law, but began forging a parallel career as an artist, documenting in watercolours and in oils the landscape of his family's neighbourhood in Dubai. The doorways, the pots, the palm trees, and other functional elements that evoke the Emirati spirit. In 2006, he became the first Emirati artist to be sold at auction, selling at over 1 million dirhams. That's around $280,000. Since early 2000, Abdul Qadir's more abstract investigations, utilising the typographical vocabulary of Arabic calligraphy, has begun to gain momentum, a style that he continues to develop. Over the last 12 years, there has also been the rise of the arts patron among the 30-something generation of Emiratis. Many have followed the example of members of the UAE's ruling families. Here you see Sultan Saud al-Qasimi, who established the Bajil Foundation in 2003. His first work was a work by Abdul Qadir Al Rais. And last year, ADMAF collaborated with the Bajil Foundation in a monumental exhibition of works spanning Arab art from 1900 to the millennium, called Sky Over the Middle East, celebrating International Museum Day. Nestled by the stables of her family's horses in Nad al-Shiba, Sheikha Latifa bint Maktoum Al Maktoum established Tashkil in 2008. This is a former women's college, and today it consists of artist studios, exhibition spaces, a graffiti wall, and even a skateboard park. It is an incubator of new work and is really front and centre at the development of a new artistic voice for the UAE. And who could ignore the marvellous contribution of MEI's 2015 honoree, Sheikh Hoda Al Khamis, who established the Sharjah Art Foundation in 2009. She presents a truly incredible multidisciplinary programme throughout the year, as well as the Sharjah Biennial. Now let's move to education. ADMAF works with several national universities in their campuses right across the 7 Emirates. While many offer credited courses in subjects such as graphic design, photography, applied communications, 3 universities offer bachelor degrees in art and design. Zayed University was established in 1998, and in 2012, the College of Arts and Creative Enterprise was born. It prepares students to become creative leaders in the arts and related industries. Its mission is to provide its students with an opportunity to explore and develop their own creative ideas while contributing to national initiatives in culture. Its curriculum for the major in art and design is consistent with the accreditation standards of the National Association of Schools of Art and Design, NASAD, right here in the US. And its alumni list is proof of its impact on the UAE. Sheikha Latifa bint Maktoum Al Maktoum of Tashkil graduated from there. So did Sheikha Wahba bint Hasha Al Maktoum, the founder of FN Design Gallery. Maitha Demithan, who you'll see later, and the first winner of the Christo and Jean-Claude Award, Sheikha Miriam bin Sultan bin Zayed Al Nahyan, was also among the alumni. The University of Sharjah, established in 1997, offers from its College of Art and Design programs leading to bachelors in fine arts, fashion design and textiles, graphic design, multimedia and architecture. Here you see one of their lecturers, Sheikha Al-Mazroui, ADMAF funded her Masters in Fine Arts at Central St Martin's in London a few years ago. New York University Abu Dhabi is the youngest of them all. Established in 2010, today it is fast positioning itself as an academic hub for the regional visual arts sector. So let us look now at the artists themselves and how they explore and examine the concept of belonging. The landscape of the UAE has been physically changing at a dramatic rate. This rapid transformation has naturally impacted on the sociological, psychological, and cultural landscape of the nation. People's sense of belonging, the question of identity. How does one define oneself both as an individual and as an Emirati? The impact of globalization on UAE society and the psychological effect of a society undergoing such change. I begin with one of 3 alumni from the American University right here in Washington, D.C., featured in the Art of the Emirates book. Mohamed Al-Astad was born in the coastal Al-Hamadi tribe of Khorfakan, nestled between the Hadjar Mountains and the Indian Ocean. He employs the force of his surrounding natural environment to form evocative statements entrenched in memory by using a technique he calls beach tombs. By burying iron, canvas, and other found objects in the sand for up to 3 weeks, he creates abstract works that are the product of Mother Nature herself. Mohamed was the first UAE citizen to obtain a Bachelor of Arts in Graphic Design from the American University, Washington, D.C. in 1998. Turning from the sea to the land, Mohamed Ahmed Ibrahim has a very special relationship with the Hadjar Mountains. This intimate inner dialogue with nature drives his pioneering artistic practice. In 2013, a monumental photographic work depicting a mountain in Khorfakan with a hole carved into it to potentially allow the sunset to fall on the town for the very first time was presented as part of Emirati Expressions Realised, an exhibition of previously unrealised projects. An equally historical exhibition was the 2014 opening of the New York University Abu Dhabi Art Gallery, which exhibited Ibrahim's seminal work, Stones Wrapped with Copper. Like Hassan Sharif, another member of the Al Khamsa, Mohamed Ahmed Ibrahim uses man's detritus to question the way we respond to the natural environment and how this relationship has changed in the UAE over the last 40 years as highways, metros, artificial islands and skyscrapers have transformed the skyline. In a country where citizens represent no more than 15% of the population, the identity question weighs heavy. How does one assume the guardianship of a cultural history in an ever more globalized society? How does one remain connected to the generations who came before when the gap between you and them is growing ever wider? Many artists seize upon the core elements that form the fabric of Emirati traditional practices by reappropriating them, giving these objects a new sense of aesthetic appreciation and or functionality. They become both representational forms and evocative statements resonating with emotion and memory. This work by Maitha Demithan is familiar to the 35,000 plus visitors in the USA who visited Past Forward, the touring exhibition of Emirati art co-curated by another alumni of American University in Washington, Noor Al-Suwaidi. This work sits in the ADMAF art collection, and this work is also the only work by an Arab artist today at the Cleveland Museum of Art. Working on inkjet print using Photoshop and scanography, this particular piece, AGSIW, Generations, shows Maitha's brother in the traditional thob and khutra, holding the highly symbolic falcon embraced by the ever-present guiding hand of their grandfather. An incredible, powerful and intimate work that shows Maitha's maturity as an artist. She's 26 years old. This is a few more works by her, Sanawat, the young girl in the dress, and Ummi El-Noumi, the elderly lady on the right. Later this year, this person will become the first Emirati woman ever to hold a PhD in fine art, supported by ADMAF. Karima Al-Shomali has exhibited worldwide for many years, but her latest solo show in London is the result of a 3-year investigation into the burqa. The Emirati burqa, an intimate object, examines the form of face covering worn in the UAE since the 18th century. Based upon extensive research, The exhibition in which this work was presented is not only an ethnographic study, but a creative investigation of the burqa's materiality and its universal symbolism. Now, one cannot talk about art without design. The two go hand in hand, and in just 4 years, Khalid Shafar has merged his business acumen and design skills to create the UAE's first Emirati-led design studio. His signature Palm series combines elements of the UAE culture with contemporary furniture design, from stalls and coat stands to lighting. In other collections, he incorporates the agal headwear into designs and also takes inspiration from Islamic geometry. Alongside this hectic schedule of creativity, Khalid is also finding time to mentor the next generation of creative entrepreneurs in the UAE as part of ADMAF's 2-year training programme, the Cultural Excellence Fellowship. Now, ADMAF was delighted to have co-commissioned this work, The Nomad, which debuted at London's Shubak Festival of Culture this summer. It's on at Dubai Design Week this month, and next April, you'll be able to see it at the Abu Dhabi Festival. The Nomad is a contemporary reference to the Arish palm tree architecture of the Gulf. Rather than casting aside the past completely in favour of more modern architectural form, Khalid, along with other Emirati practitioners, are advocating a reinterpretation of the country's architectural history. Using modular building techniques, Khalid offers a new outdoor design which functions both as a social space and a sculptural installation where visitors can sleep, eat, drink and meet. A majlis for the modern man, woman or child. Now, like many of the artists presented in Art of the Emirates, Hamdan Buti Al-Shamsi does not pursue a full-time professional career as a visual artist. He's a former school teacher, and he's just got a new job as the translator at the municipality of Al Ain. So well done, Hamdan. Whether it is painting, photography, collage, calligraphy, digital art or video, Hamdan is continually trying his hand at new mediums. It's not that he's constantly searching, rather that he is on a personal journey to assert his individuality and finds that each new idea warrants a different art form. He believes that one of his most important roles is to document the heritage of his country, and he's currently working on a project to collect Polaroid snaps from people right across the UAE. This work, State of Mind, now in the ADMAF art collection, was the flagship image of our first exhibition of Emirati art in a healthcare setting, which took place at Cleveland Clinic in Ohio in 2013. Hamdan is certainly emulating the figure in his own work, a man whose ambitious spirit, strong will and determination is really driving him along the road of innovation. In our final artist, we see how the legacy of the father of conceptual art, Hassan Sharif, is reflected in the next generation. Like Hassan, Ebtisam Abdelaziz is blurring the boundaries between arts and sciences. Her work reflects a strong academic grounding in mathematics, where she gained her degree in, and there is a profound systematic approach to her work, where an element of play is always present, but she's also pushing the boundaries and those of the perception in the viewer. Today, Ebtisam uses a variety of mediums to reflect many complexities, but it was this work, Autobiography, in 2007, that really jettisoned her into the spotlight. Here, she portrays one of the more negative aspects of modern society, where the individual is rendered futile in a world where profit is master. The video is of a deliberate moving scene, she says. The same one we all take part in every day. It is a cynical critique of consumerist societies, signifying the transformation of the human being into a code or a set of numbers, something we can all relate to, I think. So I hope that this has given you a taste to discover more and to delve into the art of the Emirates, ladies and gentlemen. And as ADMAF continues to document and develop the UAE visual arts sector, we look forward to sharing its riches with the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lisa. You've given us more than a taste. You've made us hungry, and we're going to have to find out where we can order this book. Many of us in this room. Okay, wonderful. Finally, we have the privilege to hear from Mohamed Abdul Latif Kanoo, who comes from one of the GCC's most prominent business families and holds directorships in several GCC-based companies. Mohamed was born in Bahrain into a family with a long interest in the arts. His father founded the Beit al-Quran Museum in Bahrain, which specializes in Arabic and Quranic manuscripts. And he is the founder and co-owner of Abu Dhabi's first private contemporary art gallery, the Raf, is that how it's pronounced? Art gallery, and is himself an internationally noted artist. And he just produced this wonderful book, Stop, which maybe we'll be seeing some of today. And also we'd like to know where we can purchase this as well. So please, Mr. Kanoo.
Thank you. I'd like to maybe talk a little bit. I haven't prepared anything. I thought it would be better to maybe interact a little bit with the audience on a more one-to-one basis. This way I can answer your questions. I'm both an artist and a gallerist. No conflict of interest whatsoever. But how did I become a gallerist? It was because there was no place to actually exhibit the works of the artists that were living and residing and producing in Abu Dhabi. So another silly individual like myself joined me, and we decided that we were going to respond to the big announcements of the museums that were going to be coming and establishing and happening in Abu Dhabi. So we said, you're going to be bringing the Louvre and the Guggenheim to Abu Dhabi? We don't even have a gallery in Abu Dhabi, so we need to do something about it. So we did, and we opened the first art gallery in Abu Dhabi, the independent, privately owned art gallery in Abu Dhabi. Previous to that, you could exhibit, but it was an official thing. You had to go through an official process and a program. We made it simple. You're creating art in Abu Dhabi. We want to exhibit. And for the first 2 years, we had 2 art exhibits per month, which was insane, and we burnt out. Now what we're doing, my co-founder Jalal Luqman, who's a graphic artist, he fell by the wayside, and he said, I want to focus on my art. This is killing me. So I'm alone, continuing the process as far as the gallery is concerned. But why would someone from a prominent family become involved in the arts? Well, I think my own history is rather privileged, because I have been around Islamic art, and I've been around art my whole life, having my father being a major collector of Islamic manuscripts and Islamic art. So we did get dragged along to Sotheby's and to Christie's and to museums, and when you're 8 years old or 9 years old, you don't appreciate it. It's only when you're 50 that you really begin to appreciate it. So having been through that process, I felt that yes, there is something in me that needed to be addressed. There was a creative spark, a creative bug that I needed to address. So I tried my hand at the arts, and I did like the very simple things of Andy Warhol. I felt that, this is easy to connect to people, because he's taken an industrial process, which I can relate to because I'm a businessman on the other side, and I can understand industry and how machines work and stuff. So, okay, industrial thing, and then taking an artwork and trying to simplify it as much as possible, to distill it from all its extraneous things, and focus on what is the essence of an image or an artwork or something. This is what Andy Warhol meant to me. And I said, okay, well, how are we going to produce this, and how are we going to do this in Abu Dhabi? We don't have any silk screen. Derek was saying silk screen earlier to me. No, we don't have any silk screen. I have to paint everything by hand. But there was a process that Liechtenstein did, which was to project and then draw and then produce. So I went down this process, and I started, and lo and behold, a lot of my friends who I was thinking would ridicule me, they said, oh no, we like what you're doing, so please carry on. So I've carried on in the arts, and now I've moved into different fields, including calligraphy and mixed media and conceptual art. I, as an artist, my philosophy does not allow itself to be boxed into a simple genre of art. I think artists must continue to venture, must continue to experiment, must continue the process of an artistic journey. And if you get boxed into doing something, it's like Elvis getting boxed into rock and roll. We will soon discover Priscilla Presley was on the television, and she's coming out with an album of her husband's music accompanied by a National Symphony Orchestra, Royal Symphony Orchestra of London. How does that work together? We're going to discover. So he was boxed in. I don't want to be boxed in. And I don't think any artist likes to be boxed into the art. We are now living in Abu Dhabi and in the UAE at a very, very interesting conjecture, an interesting time, because a lot of the established artists, a lot of the artists over the last 10 or 15 years, they've never had any formal art education. We don't have that in school. So where do you learn about art? It's a creative urge that exists within each of these artists in different ways. We've seen some of the works of some of the early ambassadors of art from the UAE, and we understand that a lot of this, Ibtisam Ibrahim, for example, she used her mathematics in her art. Hassan Sharif used consumer products that have been waste that would otherwise be thrown away. He takes that and he makes it into something significant and important. So each artist has his own type of experience, his own type of interest, his own type of, like in artists around the world, no doubt. But the interesting thing is that none of us have had any specific formal education at the primary and secondary level. So we come out and we have this energy and we have this interest to try and create something different. And this is where I think it's quite interesting, because we have this like little window where these artists haven't yet been affected by a formal art education, which is now what we're seeing happening, and that's being established. So we will be codified. We'll probably become far better in terms of the quality of art that we're doing, but we might, or that little spark might be slightly dimmed or slightly changed. Not dimmed, changed. So where does that leave us? We are at a point where we are really now going to exhibit some very exciting and interesting things, and we feel this is a very important way and tool for us to reach out to the rest of the world. We believe that we can communicate our ideas visually. The rest of the world speaks visually. Now, if I may just sidetrack a bit and talk a little bit about the history for the folks here who maybe don't have that background. The Arab and Islamic form of culture, if we go back long enough to before the Prophet's days, was a very oral tradition. When you're in the desert, you don't really want to carry a canvas and paints with you because it's going to dry anyway. So what you do is you tend to verbalize and you tend to produce an oral description of something that can spark your mind to create your own image within your mind. So this is an oral tradition that is very, very rich in our heritage and our Arab and Islamic heritage, pre-Islamic heritage. Then came Islam, and there was a push after the death of the Prophet. There was a push to try and say, well, okay, we have an oral tradition of the Quran as well as our own Arabic tradition, heritage, but a lot of the people who memorize the Quran are being killed off in the wars that were happening, wars of conquest in the neighborhood. So let's take this, we need to take this and we need to write it down. And all of a sudden, the Arabic oral tradition became an Arabic written tradition, moving forward from that point. And it also focused the oral tradition into producing very, very fine quality Arabic works of literature moving forward. So, but how does this deal with the visual aspects? Well, my theory is as follows. The Prophet, peace be upon him, he went he was a merchant before becoming a prophet. So he was able to go on treks to the Levant, to Syria. And during his trips there, no doubt he must have potentially met some other, well, certainly the religions of the orthodoxy of the Levant at the time. And these have depictions of, visual depictions of the saints and of Maryam and of Jesus and the apostles and whatnot. So bringing this back to and interpreting it within an Islamic type of tradition, what happened So let me try and explain what I think might have happened. Well, there's another interesting story that relates to this. There was at the early time of the Islamic, the Quranic type of thing for the mosques to call to prayer. This didn't happen very simply. It was asked, okay, well, how do you, you dear Muslims, how are we going to call the Muslims to prayer? Well, someone suggested, well, let's ring a bell, like our Christian brethren, and then we can, you know, the Muslims will come. But the Prophet was very wise in saying, no, no, we can't do that. We don't want to, and this is the interesting thing, we don't want to upset our Christian brothers with trying to copy them. And also very cleverly, he said, okay, we need to establish our own tradition, which was the verbal tradition. I think we can apply this also to the visual element. The Prophet being quite wise, he realized that the visual tradition of the iconography that we were seeing in the Orthodox type of environment, this could confuse Muslims along the way as well. So let's try and stay away from visual depictions of human beings so that we don't confuse the Muslims from the Orthodox, that especially as Islam was expanding into those countries, into those areas. So now we have a situation where Islam has expanded into Syria. There was some conquest, of course, and the Umayyad Empire was established in Damascus, and they started to take on the traditions of the people who were there before them, including in this, and this is very interesting because we see this in the very earliest times of, I don't have any pictures sadly, but I would suggest you go to the museum, the Metropolitan Museum in New York, and there you can see very, very early pottery that does depict human form and animal forms, which is very interesting. So we have depictions at the earliest stages of Islamic design, but I think the form was, let's move, and it's, by the way, depiction of human form is not actually prohibited in the Quran. It's just a tradition of the Prophet. And again, the tradition probably relates to my understanding or my theory that it was the visualization of the Orthodox type of imagery. And so let's not confuse other Muslims as we go along. Anyway, we come back to the expansion of the art form into different areas. And we have the development of floral depictions on walls and other things. And we also have the geometry, which we see throughout the Arab world and the Islamic world. So there's an evolution of an explosion of very interesting type of conceptual visual depictions. All right. Where does that bring us today? So we have a tradition that is visual, but it's not necessarily related to the human form. We are now at the point where we can see a lot of popularity among the Arab nations in Saudi Arabia and Bahrain and Qatar. And I'm talking mainly about the Arabian Gulf. In the Levant and North Africa, there has been an establishment through colonialism of a European, a Western European type of art education that might have influenced the art movements that existed there. But in the Arabian Gulf, because it's desert, you don't find that option that exists there so much. So what we're seeing now is, again, the tourists, they come, they buy the caravanserais and the pictures of the camels in the deserts and whatnot, which is nice. But we're seeing now an interesting change into calligraphy. And this is very interesting from our perspective because it relates to the written word and the visual word. So we have now these two brought together. And this is where it really becomes exciting because what's the next step? Where are we going from here? Well, I'm glad to say that we're going into exciting new places because it is just a step, a stepping stone. The artist is not going to stay happy just doing depictions of Islamic art or Islamic calligraphy or Arabic words in a visual form. There are going to be some artists that are going to brave and try to push that envelope so that they can continue their conversation with the rest of the world moving forward. So this is where we are at the evolution of the Gulf Arab type of movement. We've seen some really exciting works and 3D depictions of art from some great artists like Abdel Nasser Gharam from Saudi Arabia and others. I have a little book here. Pass it around and get some ideas. My art is a little bit of fun. it's very visual. It's very interesting to just play with the mind and tickle the mind and try to entice people into making art an acceptable form of communication with others. And that's what I try to do. So I'd be welcome to answer any questions that you might have in whatever context relating to art. I'll try to answer them as much as I can. Thank you.
Engage our audience about wonderful material that we've been previewing today. Is my mic on? Yeah, there we go, sorry. So I'd like to open the floor to questions, but as you were preparing your question, I just thought I would start with a general question, picking up on what Mr. Mohamed Abdul Latif Kanoo said, talking about next steps. Of course, the art sector in Abu Dhabi has come so far in just 20 years, thanks to the work of ADMAF and these other schools and foundations that you cite in your book. And my question now is, what are the next steps in the development of the art sector? What more needs to be done? Is more outreach necessary? Are you trying to reach a broader international audience? What are the next steps in the development of this very dynamic sector?
Well, let me try a few comments at this. Well, what we're seeing now is a very animated explosion of interest among artists in the UAE and among artists in the Gulf in particular. What we're seeing is that there is a recognition of the value of art and artists and the investment by government to support the artist movement. We see that by the national pavilions that are being established at Venice, at the Biennale in Venice, and we're seeing that increasingly through that process, we're giving the artist opportunity to gain the confidence to be able to move on to a more international stage. I think it's very important that these baby steps be taken and be supported by government, which we are seeing happening far more on a hands-on basis moving forward. Yeah.
Do you want to comment, Lisa?
Push that. It's a two-way dialogue. I mean, obviously there are the infrastructure of the UAE's visual arts sector is growing, as Mr. Kanoo said, with government support and private sector and NGO involvement. But also it's a responsibility on the rest of the world to embrace the Emirati art scene as well. So we have, if you go on our website, admaf.org, you'll see a wonderful directory of around 55, and it's growing, Emirati artists, both established and emerging, their bios, their creative statements, examples of their work. Now, it's not just for the general public, that's for the curators, the gallerists, the art consultants around the world, the consultants who are working with private sector companies that are major shareholders, UAE is a major shareholder in, to understand the country's visual arts sector, to understand the spirit, and to help us spread it around the world and gain international exposure.
Thank you. Questions from the audience? Please, there must be. Yes, there's a question here, and I believe you'll be getting a microphone.
Hi, my question is, are there any artists active in the UAE, visual artists who are also active in other arts like cinema, music, literature, or whose work reflects influences from those arts?
My short answer is yes. We're seeing an interest growing among the young as they gain confidence through their education and through their exposure to exhibitions that take place locally, through the art fairs that are taking place, through the government initiatives to get people and folks interested education-wise at higher education level to go and participate abroad. They are gaining confidence in expanding into the performing arts and to film as well.
And if you could introduce yourself, please.
Rubal Hassan from the UAE Embassy. Lisa, could you tell us a bit more about ADMAF's role in raising the art appreciation across the general public in the Gulf?
First of all, we don't stop. Year-round, we deliver arts education initiatives, multidisciplinary, but in the visual arts. We're taking artists into schools and universities to do workshops, to give lectures, primary, secondary, tertiary level. We're also holding exhibitions and then supporting independent projects through our grant scheme. It's very important that ADMAF as a non-profit organisation not only produces its own platforms to nurture and present Emirati art, but it encourages others to do so. That arm's length funding is really essential in a society. So you go to independent groups up and down the UAE, as well as universities, the faculty themselves who are undertaking independent research projects, or they're working with students on extracurricular events. El Cid, for example, the calligraffiti artist, so well known for the bridge in Paris when they threw all the locks off. They put El Cid's graffiti there. We supported the creation of a beautiful mural with Zayed University students in its Dubai campus. So it's very much about embedding. We are grassroots, as well as top-down. We're actually sowing the seeds for the next generation to follow the legacy and build upon it.
So just to follow up, how is the view of the arts as a profession or as a career changing in the view of young people in the Emirates? Do young Emiratis look at the arts and say, I could make a career of this?
Yes, well, why not? I think it's a few years ago there were, Hassan Sharif and these individuals who were suffering, really starving artists. And yet, because of the public support, the government support, and the international recognition that these guys are getting and these artists are getting, it's becoming all of a sudden far more interesting for young artists to consider art as a full-time endeavor. I wish I had more time to create art because I'm just another businessman. You know what I mean? Huh? Yeah. So, yeah, I think that it's growing into the potential for that, yes.
I mean, we have evidence of 40 Emiratis who are currently participating in our 2-year cultural excellence program who are testament to that. 40 of them are planning to be cultural entrepreneurs and watch out the world. That's all I can say. There is a movement towards full-time professional artists. There is more acceptance now, but not just artists, but it's about careers as curators, careers as gallerists, careers as consultants. Every layer of the visual arts sector, particularly the TCA, the Abu Dhabi Tourism and Culture Authority, is supporting the education of many Emiratis who are going to enter careers in the Louvre Abu Dhabi, in the Guggenheim Abu Dhabi. So it's a real nationwide effort. But I'd just like to point out that we also advocate at ADMAF art not just as a career, art as a way of life. Art is a key that unlocks the creativity within us all, whether we want to be scientists or engineers or artists. Art is a stimulus to make our lives better. That's what we preach.
It's a beautiful message. I think we did have a question in the back.
Since you are internationally known artist, and if you ask to choose between running a gallery or to being an artist full time, which one you choose?
That's an easy question. Running a gallery takes a lot of time and a lot of effort, and anything that eats into your creative time is not good. So I would be an artist first and foremost if I could find a gallery that could do my work and could do what I want them to do far better than currently I'm doing. So yes, a gallery second, artist first. Thank you.
There it's on. Yeah.
UAE Embassy. I have a question. What would you think would be more initiatives that we could do? Something like Pass Forward, in terms of basically creating kind of cultural exchange and cultural dialogue between the US and the UAE. I mean, I have my colleague Terry Harvey here from Meridian, who basically worked with the UAE Embassy on creating Pass Forward, which is an exhibition. For those who don't know, it's an exhibition of 25 Emirati artists featuring 50 of their works that's been traveling around the US now for a year and a half. And during the exhibition, it's been, you know, we've been taking part in panel discussions and workshops with some of the artists that you actually heard from Lisa. So are there any other initiatives that we could be doing that you know, that you could kind of give us ideas of?
Oh, wonderful.
Thank you, Dana. There's a lot that we can do and contribute and support Emirati artists. Keep introducing them in the USA. Bring artists together from the US and Emirati artists together. Let them brainstorm. Let them bring new work. Let them take us to another dimension that we don't know, that they will guide us. This is one. Two, buy their art, purchase their art, invest in their art. And the more exhibition, touring exhibition is amazing. You saw the exhibition that you made, it was fantastic. Keep on doing this. The other thing is investing in their education. We need to keep on investing in their education, give them opportunities to be part of these great universities in the USA, and be part of the rhythm. The art is continuously moving in the US. I was just in New York, I couldn't follow. And they can. So the more opportunities we give them, the better. And thank you, Dana, for this question. I have beautiful friends here. The Museum of Women Museum in Washington, which is amazing for me. It was a revelation. Can you imagine if we introduce our Emirati artist women to be part of this museum, participate, exhibit, give their messages? That would be wonderful. Thank you. You're doing a fantastic job anyway. Thank you very much. I speak too much. You tell me stop it.
No, no. I think you've planted some very good ideas in this room. We're gonna go to the National Museum of Women in the Arts and say you must do this now. I think we have this question in the back.
Hi, thank you. I'm Terry Harvey. I'm with Meridian International Center. Worked with Donna on the Pass Forward exhibition, which has been really enriching for us. I have a question for Mr. Kanoo. Having opened the first private gallery, I wanted to hear your thoughts on the explosion of commercial and private galleries, particularly those in Dubai, Village Gate, Quadro, Third Line. If you could talk about sort of the evolution of this space for us.
How do I stay politically correct is the answer. The explosion of art galleries let's say in Dubai has been and there has been more successful possibly or more prolific than so far in Abu Dhabi. Abu Dhabi is more focused on the framework, or establishing and creating a framework relating to the art movement. Whereas Dubai, as Dubai always does, is focused on the commercial, a bit like Washington, D.C. and New York. So why are there so much more galleries in New York than there are in Abu Dhabi? In Washington. Slip of the tongue there, Freudian slip there. I think it relates to the fact that there might be more people who are transiting through the city, who are also buying flats in the city or apartments in the city, and they need to have art on the walls, and they bring that tradition with them from abroad. So there is a support there commercially, a little bit more than in the capital, Abu Dhabi, so far. So is it part? They complement each other quite well. Exhibitions that take place in Dubai often find their way to Abu Dhabi and vice versa. I like to do my stuff in Abu Dhabi when I have the opportunity, because it's where, you know, I create my stuff. I create my artworks in Abu Dhabi, so I like them to see what I create first and foremost. But having said that, it's a big challenge because, again, I'm taking all my hats off and just leaving my artistic hat off as an artist. There is far more chance of you getting a sale for your artwork in Dubai than, or in the Northern Emirates, or internationally for that matter, than in Abu Dhabi. Abu Dhabi, like Washington, they would tell you how lovely it is, but not actually buy. Yeah. Thank you. I hope that answers your question. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Rosamond Mack, and I'm at the National Gallery of Art, and I spent several very happy years in the UAE. I wanted to ask if your various activities, exhibitions, performances, training, if they're drawing any interest in your very large non-citizen resident community, and if they are even being drawn in to participate, and there's their cross-fertilization that's growing.
Absolutely. Our focus at ADMAF is to empower the next generation to fulfill their potential. And of course, as a UAE-based organisation, our focus is on Emirati empowerment. But you cannot segregate society like that. There is cross-fertilisation. It's natural. So every year we engage around 35,000 people, from toddlers to elderly people of all nationalities. I'm very proud to say that through our survey research, we are above the national average. So the demographics of the UAE, 12% of the population is Emirati, the rest is expatriate. Our engagement with Emiratis through our programs is 40%. So that's well above the representation demographically. But it remains a challenge, and to also create platforms where there can be this cross-fertilization, and also where cultures can grow in splendid isolation as well, because that's important as well, to find their own voices and define their own voices. But last year we had hundreds of different nationalities performing in all different ways at the Abu Dhabi Festival, which we have every March. We had 113 Emiratis part of that movement as well. So it's very much hand in hand, yes.
Sorry, I handle the Department of Heritage and Social Affairs at the Embassy, so I handle the cultural side of the UAE here in the US. And I'd just like to point out that there are a number of organizations back home that basically want to engage not just Emiratis, but we have over 200 nationalities living in the UAE. And so it's extremely important to have, not just a voice for the Emiratis, but a voice for the other nationalities. And so these organizations basically look at having activities, having performances, where it's not just Emiratis that are performing, but for other nationalities as well. Cultural centers, music centers, they have classes for people from all over. It's not just for Emiratis, but for everyone to participate, from children all the way to adults.
Do we have any final? Yeah, please.
I'm Clemens Oscaris. We are with the National Museum of Women in the Arts, and we'll be delighted to have interns from your countries to come and work in a museum and find out how things are done in a museum in America and take that back home. Thank you. Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful offer. I think there was a final question.
This is the importance of the dialogue. I met my friend just two days ago, and look, now we have internship, we have opportunities, and that's dialogue, that's connecting, that's just talking to each other. Can you imagine when what you're doing is just absolutely fantastic? The more you know about us, the more we have, all of us, opportunity to move forward and to progress. Thank you.
And that's why your visit is so special for all of us.
Well, you find more things in common than you can imagine, and when you realize that that other person has a perspective that's not too dissimilar from your own, you know, there is less likelihood of getting bombed or getting involved in you know, other things more negative happening. So let's open the dialogue and let's continue the dialogue as much as we can. Yeah. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you. We've got a question in the back here.
Thank you very much. My name is Khalid. I'm a journalist. I think what you are talking right now is very important, especially with bad news comes from Middle East through the media about terror, conflicts. So I think art is one of the best examples that we can work on, especially from Emirates, one of the best or great Arab countries.
I think art is an incredibly powerful yet cheap tool.
Much cheaper than a bomb.
It's an incredibly powerful tool that countries and people can utilize to. I mean, I was outraged when the Banyan statues were destroyed. Me, I'm a Muslim. I don't believe in you know, statues and whatnot, and yet I was outraged. How dare they do something like this? You know, in our times, what is happening in Palmyra, under our own eyes, the destruction, the wanton destruction, is criminal, nothing short of criminal. So we need to reverse that, and the power of art is so important as part of that process moving forward. I speak very passionately because I believe very passionately about that. It's very important. Thank you. Thank you for bringing it up.
Well, we'd like to see the State Department more engaged in the arts. I don't see anybody from the State Department's Bureau of Educational and Cultural Affairs here. Is there anybody? May I challenge you to invest more money in the arts? Anyway, well, I think,
Yes, I'd just like to, you know, there has been a lot of questions and a lot of talk in the room about, do I need this, about fostering this two-way dialogue and the internships that you've mentioned with the women in the arts or the prospects. Can the panel talk a little bit more about the importance of long-term or the plans, the investment in long-term residencies where international artists travel to the UAE and spend a long time working and talking and discussing and producing work in progress, not necessarily work, with Emiratis, and where Emiratis do the trip in the opposite side. I think that is the best way to actually foster and support. Can you speak a little bit more about what is being done to invest in those long-term residencies?
So in terms of the Abu Dhabi Music and Arts Foundation, I'll start with us first. Long-term development is the only way to go. Yes, we can generate awareness, raise levels of understanding through periodic exhibitions and other initiatives, but it's actually investing in the maturing of an artist that is the most important thing. Now, we're not a Ministry of Education. We can't set up art schools. We are helping to sow those seeds and generate the momentum for art schools to be developed in the UAE, but we're not the ones taking the lead on that. So what we are doing is bridging that gap between the rest of the world and the UAE through the visual arts. So many years ago, Mrs. Kanoo engaged Andreas Gursky, the great photographer artist, and he came to Abu Dhabi and started engaging with the students on a short-term project, on a visit. That has become a regular initiative now with ADMAF. We call it Ways of Seeing. Yes, I stole it from the Berger book. But it's a regular program throughout the academic year of international artists visiting the UAE, going into the universities and meeting our National Gallery members, our emerging and established visual artists, to engage on a one-to-one level. Maybe it would be reviewing their portfolio, or maybe it would be talking about more profound issues. on a more specific level, we bring artists to create works in the UAE while engaging artists to work alongside them. So, for example, a few years ago, we invited the great sound artist Bill Fontana to come to the UAE, and he created 2 works, acoustical studies of Sheikh Zayed Bridge, the wavy bridge designed by Zaha Hadid, and also the desert. He went into the eastern region near Al Ain with his microphones. Eastern? No, it was the eastern region near Al Ain, Mish Al Gharbiya. No. It sounds different. And he went with his sound engineer, and he created this work surrounded by visual projections of these moving sand dunes. It sounds just like running water. Absolutely fascinating. Now, alongside those 2 acoustical studies, there were 3 more artworks created by Emirati artists. One of them was The Power of the Palm, a sound work inspired by a young woman who studies fashion design in Sharjah. She went and recorded the sound of the wind through the palm trees in her family's farm in Al Zaid, just outside Sharjah. And yes, they were all mentored by Bill Fontana, inspired to create these sound works. Now we're working with the great Italian artist Fabrizio Plessi on a 3-month residency project in Venice. And also, the one that really ricochets with me is we're working with Fatma Luta, one of the artists that is featured in the book. She's Emirati, but she lives in Verona in Italy. And she is offering a number of young Emiratis to come and spend 2 weeks with her at her home to live and work and practice with her at her home in Verona. That is going to be an incredible experience. You have that Emirati engagement, that intergenerational creative dialogue. At the same time, there's that phenomenal international exposure. So those are some of the long-term investments
the State Department used to run. Were these exact exchanges. They were usually a semester long. They were not long. They were not a year long, but they were about a semester long, where a museum curator or an artist would come to the foreign country, spend time working with artists, with museums, and so on. Unfortunately, the State Department has lost that level of funding. So I think from the American side, we need to look more to the museums, to the Smithsonian institutions that can now fill the gap of working with people like ADMAF and other institutions in the Gulf and the broader Middle East, because it's not something that we will see recreated at the State Department. So I think we're going to have to look to private institutions and other official institutions like the Smithsonian. And I think they do a number of exchanges. I'm just not up to speed on what they do now, but I think we need to tap into that to promote that dialogue across cultures.
I've been introduced to Eric, who runs the Smithsonian internship program. We've only been here for 4 or 5 days, ladies and gentlemen. We've already got expressions of interest in welcoming Emirati interns at the Smithsonian. The wonderful National Portrait Gallery was absolutely so warm and welcoming to us. The National Museum of Women in the Arts, just incredible. The welcome we've had has been phenomenal. So yes, I think we'll be doing a little bit of that.
But interesting that you mentioned this, Marcelle. The previous ambassador to our current U.S. ambassador in Abu Dhabi, or in the UAE, Michael Corbin, when he first arrived, he decided that he wanted to have an outreach to Emirati artists, and he welcomed Emirati artists to his house and to use the American ambassador's residence as a portfolio for Emiratis and local artists to exhibit in. So the House of the Ambassador became effectively, and there are many receptions that come. It became the gallery for a lot of Emirati artists. And this small, simple step didn't cost much, but it was so impactful because a lot of these artists felt very proud to have been chosen and recognized and placed in a place, artists, all they want to do is to have their art being seen. It's on the wall rather than in storage somewhere. So anyone who wants to have art, let us know and we'll give you some art. We'll put them on the walls. Thank you.
A final question.
Yes, my name is Steve Tarantel, and I was the dean at the College of Arts and Creative Enterprises at Zayed University. And for, I guess, between 2012 and 2014. And it was a great experience for me as an artist. I am currently the provost at the University of the Arts in Philadelphia. But what I saw there was an amazing development in real time of a whole new generation of artists. Our students were were all women at Zayed University in the College of Art. And ADMAF was a tremendous supporter in so many respects. We had students going to Japan. We had students going to London in terms of the break to see either design studios or museums or whatever it was. And a tremendous number of people coming in, exhibitions, support. So there really was a cross-fertilization that you're all talking about there. And one of the things that I'll never forget was at the end of the year when we had a student exhibition, a number of the students introduced me to their mothers. And they said that the mother wanted to go to study art, but she couldn't. But she made sure that her daughter did. And you could really see the development of culture happening just through those kinds of interactions. So I want to publicly thank you for all the good work that you do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for all these wonderful questions. Clearly, your visit and today's panel have served to build bridges and served to create opportunities, and I think served to generate a lot more interest in the arts of the Emirates. So thank you to all of our panelists for joining us.